Hey everybody, I'm Nicole.
I'm Lindsay.
And I'm Sarah, and together we're the co-founders of Whale Tales, a living library of cetacean stories.
Today we are celebrating Dolphin Awareness Month! Whee!
Plus, a dolphin tale from California.
So sit back and enjoy as we dive right in.
So before we start, we have breaking dolphin news.
Ooh.
Dun, 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 dun. Today, as we are recording, March 24th, they officially have decided, whatever it is that they do to make this the case, that the Ganges River dolphins and the Indus River dolphins are in fact two different separate species.
Woohoo!
If you remember back to November?
September?
When we did our, I don't know, the fall?
Yeah.
What is time? We did our river dolphin episode, and it was very confusing, and Nicole had some feelings about how species are designated.
Which longtime listeners, or even short-term listeners, will know is not news.
No.
I always have feelings about speciation.
I'm excited that they made a decision on this one. It's also...
Yes.
It's good because then it's like they get treated as two separate species for conservation stuff and funding and all that, which is good.
It's very important since they are super endangered. So this study was done through dolphin skulls, which is similar to how the Bride's whale, Rice's whale designation was done as well, but that also had DNA in it. This study that took 20 years showed that they have different numbers of teeth, coloration, growth patterns, and skull shapes, as well as clear genetic differences. So it's like super obvious. It's just that these animals are not well studied and they're not cited a lot and all of those kinds of things. So they're both listed as endangered on the IUCN Red List. So hopefully this will help get some defined numbers and what needs to get done and go from there.
Yay! Congratulations to the river dolphins. You are now officially distinct.
Yay, good job.
No longer have to look into a puddle of water and go, who am I?
So, for this Dolphin Awareness Month, we wanted to bring some awareness to the 6 dolphin species and their namesakes that are named after scientists.
I'm going to start us off with a dolphin near and dear to my heart, and I promise not to scream into everybody's ears because there isn't one sitting right in front of me, unlike what happened when that did happen and Lindsay and Sarah's eardrums were blown. We're going to start with the Commerson's dolphin. I love Commerson's dolphins, and Lindsay and Sarah have worse hearing today than they did a while ago.
Also the trip that we went to Disneyland at,
That's
so just can't hear anything ever, really.
Coming up on 10 years ago, right? Yeah.
In like the end of April.
Yeah.
So I love Commerson's dolphins. They are so cool looking. So cool looking. They're small. They're one of the smaller dolphins. They're only about 1.5 meters long, 35 to 60 kilograms. So they're just itty bitty little dolphins. But what is particularly cool about them is their coloration. So another common name for them is the Panda Dolphin because they look kind of like pandas. They're black and white with very sharply delineated color patterns. So they have a black head and a black dorsal fin and a black fluke, but the middle of their body is just like somebody took a paint brush and brushed bright white paint all over just the middle of their body and skipped the dorsal fins. They're super cool looking and I love them. There are 2 geographically isolated but locally common subspecies. One is seen around the tip of South America and the other around the, I'm going to butcher the pronunciation of this, but I apologize. It's the Kerguelen Islands? Yep, sure. The Kerguelen Islands in the Indian Ocean. And the Commerson's dolphins are named after Dr. Filbert Commerson. Filbert's a great name, too. This is just all around great dolphin, great scientist. Dr. Filbert Commerson was born in 1727 and died when he was 45 years old in 1773. He was a French naturalist and first described the Commerson's dolphin in 1767 after he saw them for the first time in the Strait of Magellan, which I love to say. I just love so many things about Commerson's dolphins. A couple of other really interesting facts about Dr. Commerson, which is why we wanted to focus on not just the dolphins that are named after scientists, but also the scientists themselves, because as we were talking about before we started recording, like these were real people who have their name attached to a species, and I've said Commerson's dolphin for years and years and years of my life, and I, before researching for this podcast, had never bothered to look up who the Commerson that was attached to the Commerson dolphin. And since we're always talking about how important scientists are, I thought, well, like, let's actually go and dig into the scientists who we say their names all of the time and share a little bit more about their life. And what I thought was particularly cool when I started researching Dr. Commerson was that he was best buddies with Carl Linnaeus, a person that I have many feelings about. Because Linnaeus is the one who came up with the nomenclature of scientific names, like genuses and phylums and...
Before him, there was no system, so at least he came up with a system.
There's that. And he's also not responsible for the 21st century taxonomy names, so you can't blame him for all that part.
It's true. Actually, back in Linnaeus's day, in the 18th century, things were pretty fine. Kings played chess on fancy green squares, so
there was like 7 species, so...
And it was Linnaeus who actually encouraged Dr. Commerson to start studying fish in the Mediterranean. So that's fun. Gotta love when your buddy is just like, hey, I think you should go name a bunch of fish. Just go. If you know anything about Linnaeus, you know that not only was he very particular about how things should be structured and ordered and named, but he also, his true passion was botany, and it turns out that his buddy Commerson was also very, very passionate about botany. He had a huge personal plant collection, and one of the things that he was sort of like best known for was accompanying Louis-Antoine de Bougainville on his voyage of circumnavigation from 1766 to 1769, where he collected, I think it was over 400 different, and described over 400 new plant species on that voyage. So he liked his plants. But what I found to be personally most interesting about Dr. Commerson is that please remember, this is in the 1700s. Women didn't have a lot of opportunity to work in science in the 1700s, but Commerson was a progressive French naturalist, and he saw the value of women in the workforce back in the 1700s. And he had a partner and assistant, not a romantic partner, just a purely professional partner and assistant, Jeanne Barret, also referred to as Jean Barrett. And she accompanied him on this circumnavigation voyage for 3 years, disguised as a man. He knew that she was a woman, and he was able to support this whole like disguised endeavor for her to come. She acted as his nurse because he was often ill, but she assisted him with all of his scientific work. So all of his preparation of specimens, gathering of specimens, descriptions, everything. And it was only near the end of their trip when her gender became discovered when they were in Tahiti. But Commerson is the one who stood up for her to the captain of the ship and said, nope, she's staying with me. I need her with me. I can't continue my work without her. And I think that's awesome. And it just makes me love Commerson and Commerson's dolphins even more.
How hasn't there been a movie about that?
I know.
Yeah. I'd watch that.
Future thoughts. I'm going to do more research about Jean Barret, but she didn't really study dolphins, so not applicable to this podcast.
That's okay. All right. Well, now we're going to move on to a slightly less exciting person. We're going to talk about the Heaviside dolphins, which I think that's how you pronounce it, and then it gets confusing because the scientist doesn't have an E in his last name because it was misnamed. I don't know, it's so confusing. So the Heaviside dolphin is 1.8 meters, so decent sized dolphin, with distinct black, gray, and white body patterns. They are endemic to the Benguela ecosystem along the southwest coast of Africa, and the scientist who discovered and named them was Captain Havicide. Yes. Of the British East India Company.
So he was not a scientist. He was just like a boat captain.
He was a captain for the people who were evil in Pirates of the Caribbean.
He knew Commodore Norrington.
Yes. Just picture him with one of those wigs looking at dolphins. Early in the 19th century, a specimen was caught off the Cape of Good Hope and brought to the United Kingdom by Captain Havyside. Once in the UK, a zoologist named John Edward Gray first described the species in his book called Speciologia Zoologica?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
First described the species in his book in 1828, but misidentified Havyside as the surgeon John Heaviside, who was also known for his own biological collections at the time. So it's really just too bad that they have a similar name. We don't know
poor
anything
captain.
else.
This poor Commodore Norrington buddy.
About who Captain Havyside was, except that he definitely wore a wig. It was very likely that he was Thomas Havyside, who was born in England in 1787 and died in Kentucky in 1862.
So fun.
That research brought to you by a deep, deep, deep dive into Captains Havyside of the East India Trading Company through myancestry.com. Not a sponsor, but I went deep into the people who are on like shipmates lists for the East India Trading Company.
So fun.
Yeah.
Okay. Our next dolphin is the Hector's dolphin, and it is the smallest dolphin species. They're 1.2 to 1.6 meters tall and weigh 35 to 60 kilograms. They look pale gray from a distance, but at closer glance, they have a complex and elegant combination of colors. They're really awesome looking.
Yeah.
Their back and their sides are light gray, and then their dorsal fins, flippers, and flukes are black. Their eyes have a black mask, which extends forward to the tip of the rostrum and back towards the base of their dorsal. No,
they're basically like raccoons.
Yeah. Yeah, they are raccoon
but
dolphins. They're really, really, really cute. And also because they're small. They also have like a creamy white throat and belly, and then a white stripe on their belly. They've just got like really complex, cool coloration.
Yeah, and everything is round, so that makes them look even cuter. Because like the dorsal fin is super round. It looks like a Mickey Mouse ear, and
they don't really have a rostrum. It's kind of porpoise-like.
They're like a cartoon dolphin.
Basically, they're very cartoony looking.
Why isn't there a cartoon about Hector's dolphin?
I don't know.
It would be great publicity because they are super endangered.
Yes.
They are the only cetacean endemic to New Zealand. They're only found in New Zealand. There are two subspecies. One known as the South Island Hector's dolphin, and that's found in the shallow inland waters all around the South Island. And then there's the critically endangered Maui dolphin, which is found off the west coast of the North Island. And they were discovered by Sir James Hector, who was the curator of the Colonial Museum in Wellington, which is now one of my favorite museums in the whole world, the Museum of New Zealand, Te Papa Tongarewa. It's on the harbour in Wellington, and it's beautiful and gorgeous, and oh man, I want to go to New Zealand.
No.
Especially Wellington, but anywhere. But yeah, no, it's seriously one of my favorite, like all-time favorite museums. So James Hector examined the first specimen of the dolphin that was found by cephalogists?
Mm-hmm.
What is that word?
Cephalopod scientists.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So
it was like someone looking for an octopus.
Yeah, I was like, did you mean cetologist?
No, I meant cephalogist.
Okay, so people out looking for cephalopods found this dolphin, and they brought it to Sir James Hector. He was a geologist, naturalist, and surgeon, and then the curator of the museum. Don't really think he knew much actually about dolphins, but
not really.
There were a lot of options in New Zealand at that time, I'm assuming. He also has a connection to our local British Columbia geography. He was a member of the Palliser expedition in 1857 to 1860. The goal of that was to explore the new railway routes for the Canadian Pacific Railway, and also to collect plants. Multitasking. Anyways.
All of those expeditions were multitasking.
Yes. So while they were exploring a mountain pass near the Continental Divide of the Canadian Rockies, one of his pack horses fell into the river. And as it was being pulled from the river, his own horse strayed, like the horse he was riding it. And then while he was chasing after it, he says that he was kicked in the chest and knocked unconscious. And then he wrote in his diary, in attempting to recatch my own horse, which had strayed off while we were engaged with the one in the water, he kicked me in the chest. Then his companions, thinking that he was dead, dug a grave for him and started to put him in it. And his premature burial was cancelled, though, when he regained consciousness.
In his own grave?
Yeah.
God.
If you think that this story might sound familiar because your dad told it to you one time while you were driving across Canada,
Yep.
it is because
absolutely.
this area, the pass and the river, are now known as Kicking Horse Pass and Kicking Horse River.
Hooray!
I did not know that it was Sir James Hector of Hector's Dolphins.
No, it's a crazy random happenstance.
Indeed.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep, but yeah, definitely heard that story on multiple road trips.
many times.
Love you, Dad.
Yeah. Our next scientist named dolphin is the Rizzo's dolphin. So we've talked about Rizzo's dolphins on the podcast before. We have all been lucky enough now to see them together, in fact, and that was an incredible moment.
Indeed.
They are larger dolphins. They're about 3 meters long and between 300 and 500 kilograms. And they are best known for being born gray or brown with sort of a white anchor shaped area behind their pecs and around their mouth. But the older they get, the more scars they get, mostly from social interactions with each other. And the scars start to cover their entire body. It is common for most toothed whales to kind of rake each other with their teeth, but Rizzo's dolphins take this to the extreme. They're unusually overly scarred, so much so that older individuals appear mostly white from a distance just because of the number of scars that they've accumulated. So when you think about the fact that they were born browny, dark gray, and then by the time they're older, they just look white because of how many scars, it's a lot.
Yeah.
And they are found worldwide in temperate and tropical waters, but usually in very, very deep waters that are close to land. So you have to have kind of the right topography in order for you to be able to see them. And they are named after a French naturalist named Antoine Rizzo. And he was born in 1777 and lived to the ripe old age of 68 and died in 1845. Now, what I thought was really interesting about Antoine is that he is the one who first described the Rizzo's dolphins, so that tracks with them being named after him, but he isn't the one who published his description. That actually goes to Georges Cuvier, who you may recognize from the Cuvier's baked whale. So that's where he lended his name instead of taking it from his buddy Antoine and saying, oh, I'm going to name a beaked whale and your dolphin that you described. He shared the, what's it called? The fame and glory of having your name attached to a dolphin that most people don't know hundreds of years later who you were. And that first publication was in 1812. So that's when the Rizzo's dolphin was first described by scientists. Antoine Rizzo didn't stop with the dolphin, though. He has a species of lanternfish named after him, and a whole genus of gastropods is named after him.
Is a lot of gastropods.
There are a lot of gastropods. Good job, Antoine Rizzo. We like your dolphins a lot.
Yeah. So next up is the Fraser's dolphin, not named after my brother-in-law's brother, but actually Francis Charles Fraser. It's a crazy name. So Fraser's dolphins are 2.75 meters. That's very exact. There's probably some variation in there. And they weigh about 200 kilograms. They have a small fin in relationship to their body size, conspicuously small flippers, and their upper side is gray blue and going down to gray brown. And they have a dirty cream colored line that runs across their flanks from their beak above their eyes to their butt. And there is a dark stripe under this line. And then their bellies and throat are usually white, sometimes tinged pink. So basically, they're really strange colored. Like, that's a lot of things going on.
Kind of a trend with all of the dolphins named after scientists. Which we should actually note here, these dolphins aren't related to each other. Like, the fact that they are named, I mean, they're all cetaceans and they're all toothed whales and they're all part of that. But, like, in terms of if you start looking at, like, the genuses of dolphins, they're not closely related at all. They're all over the map. But it is interesting that when you pull all 6 of them together and look at them as a group, they're all named after scientists, and all 6, even though we haven't described the 6th one yet, have wonky, crazy, cool coloration, which is not actually that typical of dolphins. Most dolphins are gray.
Yeah. Which, like, so a lot of other dolphins are named after what they look like. So maybe this is just why? I don't know. Who knows? But also then we get into melon-headed whales and pilotfish and all of that stuff, and we're just like, okay, none of this makes sense. Anyway, so Fraser's dolphins, they're normally sighted in deep tropical waters, be in the Atlantic, Pacific, and Indian Oceans, and most oftenly sighted in the Eastern Pacific. So the scientist, as I said, is Francis Charles Fraser, who was born in 1903 and died when he was 75, and he actually is a marine biologist. Good job, him.
And our most recent scientist.
I know, this is pretty breaking news for a while. So in 1895, Charles E. Hose found a skull on the beach in Sarawak, Borneo, which he donated to the British Museum. And the skull remained unstudied until 1956, when Francis Fraser examined it and concluded it was similar to a species in both the genera Legorhynchus and Delphinus, but not the same as either of them. So a new genus was created by simply merging these two names together. Pelaginodolphus hosei is the species name in Latin, which is in Hose's honor. So that's kind of nice. Good job, Francis.
I like that they shared the credit there too.
Yeah. Well, they lost the skull for 60 years, but they kept his name attached to it. So good job.
Which is better than the Heaviside dolphin.
Indeed.
So Fraser worked at the British Museum of Natural History from 1933 to 1969. And he was elected a Fellow of the Royal Society in 1966. Fraser Point, between Mar Bay and Macintosh Cove, on the north coast of Laurie Island in the South Orkney Islands of Antarctica, is also named after him. So that's pretty cool.
Our last dolphin is the Peale's dolphin. The Peale's dolphin is 2.1 meters long, about 115 kilos, and it has a dark gray face and chin with a largely black back with a single off-white stripe running, curving, and getting wider as it runs down the back on each side. Their belly is like...
They are like chin strap penguins.
Oh, yeah. But like it goes down their whole body.
Raccoon dolphins and chin strap penguin dolphins.
And then they have a white belly, and then they also have a white patch just behind each flipper in an area known as the armpit. They are endemic to the coastal waters around South America, and they are named for Titian Ramsay Peale, an American naturalist and explorer who was born in 1799 and died in 1885. So Peale first described the species in 1848. He was an ornithologist, entomologist, photographer, painter, and explorer. You will notice that he was not a marine biologist. So also slightly connected to our local geography here, in 1838, Peale boarded the Peacock and served as the chief naturalist for the United States exploring expedition of 1838, led by Sir Charles Wilkes. And as the chief naturalist on that ship, he collected and preserved many specimens of natural history, which he shipped back to Philadelphia. And during that expedition, Captain Wilkes named Peale Passage in the southern part of Puget Sound in Washington State after Titian Peale. And also, in 1873, Robert Ridgway named the biggest species of the peregrine falcons the Peale's falcon after Titian Peale. So fun.
All of these dolphins have really cool coloration. They're all named after scientists. And considering, other than the Rizzo's dolphin, none of these dolphins come to BC, it was very surprising to me how many of these researchers had geological ties.
Researchers traveled around a lot.
Yeah, especially, British colony-ish people. I mean, they weren't all British, but mostly.
There we go. So we hope that you have enjoyed this fun roundup of not at all related, but interestingly connected dolphins to celebrate Dolphin Month. Do you know what time it is now, guys?
I do. Because I'm reading the notes.
It's time for Fun Flavor Fact. Fun Flavor Fact. Fun Flavor Fact. It's time for Dolphin Facts. Yay!
Woo!
So fun.
And today's Fun Flipper Fact is brought to us by our patrons. And all of our patrons had the opportunity to vote in this month's poll to select the dolphin that they wanted to learn more about.
What is a Patreon, you ask? Well, Patreon is a website where you can support creators like us for as little as $1 a month. And in exchange, you get some fun, awesome perks.
We have a weekly newsletter with fun facts and updates and stories. We have merch discounts, and we've got a ton of new merch up right now, so you should definitely join Patreon so you can get that sweet, sweet discount. We have polls like this one. We have watercolors. Sometimes we have extended interviews or stories from our guests, and all sorts of super fun stuff.
And you can become a patron of ours for whatever nominal value you are able to give. And whatever that is, we are extremely grateful for it because, as we've said before, the three of us do this out of our ridiculous love and passion for cetaceans. And we all have full-time jobs on top of this. And this is just something that we really, really love doing. So we are incredibly grateful for the support of our patrons and the support of those of you who aren't able to become patrons as well, because if that's not something that you can do, we totally understand, and we are just grateful that you listen. And if you can leave us a review, that would help even more people become dolphin nerds and find us and listen to our podcast.
If you want to check out our Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/whalesales.
Hooray! So you can find us, and if you become a patron, you can vote in the next poll. But for those of you who've already done that, drumroll. Today's poll is the rough-toothed dolphin. So we're going to dig into the rough-toothed dolphin, which I invite you, listener, if you're listening to this on a smartphone, just do a quick search for rough-toothed dolphin. Bring up a picture in front of you because, I didn't know much about rough-toothed dolphins, and they are crazy looking. They're crazy looking dolphins. They look vaguely prehistoric, but also kind of reptilian at the same time. They're the only dolphin species that has not just so they don't actually have a rounded rostrum the way that some of our scientifically named or scientist named dolphins that we've talked about today did, or porpoises do. They do have a rostrum, but there's no defined kind of break or skin crease or anything between the rostrum and their melon. So it's got that very crocodilian shape, but the prehistoric comes from a lot of the river dolphins kind of have that feature as well, but the fact that it's so smooth, you have to see a picture.
Yeah, they look like an ichthyosaur a little bit.
Yeah, a little like an ichthyosaur, or a Dorudon is the other one. I was looking at a bunch of prehistoric sort of relatives of cetaceans. They are crazy cool looking. They're also relatively large for a dolphin that's not a blackfish. They are between 2.6 and 2.8 meters long and 155 kilograms. And they're generally found in very tight-knit groups of 10 to 20 with a seemingly strong social structure. So they're not particularly well studied, but they have been sort of seen with the same individuals multiple times. And so that social structure, whatever it is, we're not 100% sure if it's, familial or just kind of buddy bonds. It does seem to be everlasting. They live in very deep oceanic, tropical, and warm temperate waters in the Atlantic, Pacific, and Indian Oceans, usually way out beyond the continental shelf. So you gotta be really comfortable in a boat for a long time to find them.
No, thank you. Did you say how they're identified? You said they've been recited with the same individuals?
Yes. Oh, I didn't say how they're identified though. So they're usually identified by dorsal fin and a combination of sort of they're pink or yellowy blotches and spots. It's coloration. It's not sort of the curls that we find on baleen whales, but they do have kind of distinct spots around their side. However, they're usually on the lower to ventral side of their bodies. And these are not an acrobatic species of dolphin. They half-heartedly breach out of the water sometimes. So, but they do log. So they do kind of, like belugas do, where they will rest at the surface for long periods of time to breathe. So that's when sometimes a researcher can get a look at the splotches on their sides, but dorsal fin ID is much more reliable.
Cool.
Super cool looking dolphin. Where they get their name from, though, and what's best known about them is their teeth. So
I would
check for
guessed
for having a name that tells us what's defining about you. They do have very peculiar and unique teeth. each tooth, so they are conical in shape like most dolphins. But each tooth, it looks like the leaf of a plant in terms of it's got vertical ridges or wrinkles all the way around it. Oh, all 360 degrees if you were to take one tooth. Maybe an almond is actually a better way to describe it. It looks like an almond. I don't know why I went with a leaf. But yeah, it has like all of those wrinkles all the way along every single tooth, and they have quite a lot of them. So if you think about a dolphin's jaw, it's usually broken down into 4 quarters. So there's the top half and the bottom half, and then on each of those halves, there's the left side and the right side. And so each quarter of their jaw can have between 19 and 28 teeth in it. And I think we've mentioned, it is. We've mentioned this before when we've talked about teeth in cetacean species. It's just weird that like almost all humans always have the same number of teeth. And dolphins of the same species don't. Just if that breaks your brain, just deal with it, because it's just the way that it is. It has nothing to do with number of teeth being like used to differentiate species, because the same species can sometimes have like 50 more teeth than the same number of the same species. It's just weird. So that's a little bit about the rough-toothed dolphin. They have rough teeth that look really cool, and I actually think that it's maybe one of the least cool things about them.
Yeah.
But it's what they're named for. I think that they're just their overall look. They have like really big eyes too.
And how social they are.
Yeah.
But like our lack of understanding about that is like intriguing.
And the socialization too for like such an open oceanic dolphin. That's not something that you see very often. Yeah. So thank you, patrons, for helping to select this as to this month's Fun Flipper Fact and taking me on a deep dive into a dolphin species I would like to know more about. They are really, really cool. I do think that the best chance that the three of us have when the world is a place we can travel again to see them would be, there does seem to be a distinct population that lives in the Mediterranean. So let's go there. We do still have to go very far off the coast, but at least it's the Mediterranean.
To go for science. So to celebrate Dolphin Awareness Month, we reached out to Donna from Dana Wharf. She is the general manager of the Dana Wharf Sports Fishing and Whale Watching in California, and she sent us 2 dolphin whale tales, which was super exciting. One about Patches, the leucistic bottlenose dolphin, who is very similar skin issues to Look that we've talked about quite often on our podcast, and then also an amazing dolphin stampede of common dolphins, which is just, she sent video and it's just like, ugh, just as much as I want to go out on the boat and then this happens when you're out on a boat, just, oh, come on. Anyway, so I will let Donna take it away.
Hello, this is Donna Kales, and I'm the general manager of Dana Wharf Sport Fishing and Whale Watching. Today, I thought I would tell the story of Patches. Patches is a bottlenose dolphin. He is a leucistic dolphin, which means that he lacks pigmentation. So when I first saw Patches, the bottlenose dolphin, I thought he was reminiscent of a calico cat. He is gray with white and beige splotches all over him. He's so cute. He's one of our cutest dolphins, and he loves Dana Point. So Patches, the bottlenose dolphin that I'm referring to, often travels in a group of 20 to 40 bottlenose dolphin. The bottlenose dolphin that we encounter off Dana Point, we could see anywhere on our trips, but when we see Patches, everybody is so excited, and to see Patches come out of the pod of 40 dolphins is very exciting. So as you can imagine, every time that we see a pod of bottlenose dolphins, we all are very excited. All the passengers are very excited because they might get a glimpse of Patches. It was told to me recently that Patches loves Dana Point the most because he has been seen here over and over again. Just this month, we have already seen him 7 times. 7 times in 17 days. That's pretty incredible. So that is my tale, Dolphin, the bottlenose dolphin. We love him, and he is becoming the mascot of Dana Point. Come see Patches.
Donna was so generous to share another story with us, so here she is with her second story.
Today, my dolphin tale is being in a dolphin stampede. A dolphin stampede is a pod, a megapod or superpod of common dolphin. These common dolphin, for whatever reason, could be feeding in an area, and you could be watching them, and all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, they start stampeding. And yes, if you think of stampeding, that's exactly what these dolphins do, but they're in the water, and they take off. Like many of us say, gone to the races. They go to the races. They go so fast. It's the fastest time you'll ever see a dolphin swim. And it makes a noise when you're next to it or you're in it. It's just rushing water all around you from the dolphins, and they're going so fast. I have seen this multiple times, but one time in particular, I witnessed it when there were killer whales in the area, and the killer whales, these particular killer whales, wanted to attack dolphin. It's very sad, but it is part of nature, and these dolphins took off so fast. The stampede was the fastest I have ever seen. If you get a chance, look up dolphin stampede, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Thank you for letting me share a dolphin tale.
Dolphins.
I miss dolphins.
Me too. They're just there being all dolphin-y.
Yep.
Yeah, and they've seen Patches a bunch of times in the last month, which is cool. And they also just saw false killer whales there for the first time. So Dana Wharf in California is a hopping place to be right now. They get gray whales and humpbacks and blue whales and a sei whale once. We've got some great stories from one of their photographers, as well as the whale watching company. And you can read all of those, plus all of our dolphin stories, which we have over 600 of, because killer whales are dolphins, and we have a lot of killer whale stories. But lots of other dolphin species stories as well. So check them all out on our website.
Nice. Yeah. Thanks so much, Donna, for sharing your stories. That was amazing.
So good.
Before we wrap up, just wanted to throw out a shout out to everybody out there, and just hope that you're keeping safe and looking after yourself and looking after your loved ones, and maybe signing up for vaccines. I don't know. Hopefully, this is our hope for all of us. If you're able to sign up for a vaccine, go for it. Science loves vaccines, and we love science. Yeah. Yep. That's all I got for you.
I think we're done. So we would love to hear your thoughts on this episode, or of course any episode of our podcast. So please visit our website at whale-tales.org and find links to our various social media handles so that you can drop us a line.
You can also tweet at us directly. I am FHG07. Sarah is Sarah K. Given, no H. And Nicole is Nick F. Cann, Cann.
You can also head to our website to subscribe to the podcast, check out our merchandise, and learn about supporting us and becoming a patron. And while you're there, read over 1,000 whale, dolphin, and porpoise stories.
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
That's whale-tales.org. Tales like the stories, not tales like the animal.
And if you have seen a cetacean, no matter what kind, we would love to add your story to our library. Click the share link on our site, contact us on social media, Whale Tales Work, or email us a voice memo and tell us all about your incredible encounter.
Thank you again for listening and for supporting us. We will be back on the last Wednesday of next month with our next episode.
Thanks, everybody, and have a whaley great day.